Welcome to the Ultimate Gen Z Nostalgia Iceberg, Part 2. I haven't got too much to say before we start off this video, except for, in the last one I actually credited the wrong person. This is created by u/TheBestYTPer on Reddit. That's the actual person who made it this time around. Apologize for that. This iceberg really just gets better and better as it goes on, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's do this thing. Tip of the iceberg. Alright, here we're gonna get a little more obscure, but this is still pretty general stuff. The Angry Video Game Nerd. The Angry Video Game Nerd is a content creator who has been making videos since even before YouTube. His videos were basically a series of a character played by James Rolfe getting really irrationally mad at shitty video games from the past. The series wasn't for kids on account of the fact that the nerd would curse like a sailor in every video, but the series was really classic and still holds up. Surprisingly, the nerd is still doing angry video game reviews to this day. Hot Topic. Hot Topic is a chain of stores that specializes in alternative clothing and merchandise. They are best known for catering to goth and emo kids since they've got that whole My Chemical Romance art style going on, and the store was really popular back in the day. Hot Topic is my favorite store to shop at, and I've spent too much money on stuff from there. Miniclip. Miniclip is a website which hosted thousands and thousands of flash games that were played by tons of kids and teens. The website is actually still around to this day, only with games of a different format, and honestly, I'd suggest that you check it out if you're bored and you've got nothing else to do. Neopets. Neopets is a very cute online browser game where you could play with and take care of a bunch of little animals, lots of which were fictional creatures. The game was beloved by kids because of the interactivity and the art style, and overall, it's just a very classic game. YouTube Poop. YouTube Poop is a subgenre of YouTube videos specializing in taking pre-existing things like movies and TV shows, video game cutscenes, etc., and making them crazy and weird. The earlier and most memorable of these were remixes of the old Philips CDI Nintendo games, which bring back a lot of fond memories if you were on YouTube at all back in the day. It started off pretty simple, but nowadays YouTube Poop is a lot more advanced and complex while still having that original charm. Goosebumps. Goosebumps is a classic horror book series created by R.L. Stine. The books are for kids, so it's nothing too bad in terms of horror, but as a kid, those books and TV shows were very creepy. The one that freaked me out the most was The Mask. Goosebumps is still a thing in current day, with 2 movies featuring Jack Black, so maybe the next generation will be able to relate to this being nostalgic too. Fred Figglehorn. Fred Figglehorn, commonly referred to as Fred, was a character portrayed by Lucas Cruikshank on YouTube. Fred was a hit, being the first YouTube channel to reach 1 million subscribers, I think. The series basically consisted of Fred, a 4-year-old doing wacky stuff despite being in a really dark situation. One of the most recognizable things about this character was the way he spoke. All the videos were very sped up, which made him have an Alvin and the Chipmunks-esque voice. There were also some movies that had John Cena in them too. And also a full-on TV show on Nickelodeon, which is amazing. Adam Sandler movies. Adam Sandler movies, otherwise known as the greatest cinema to hit the silver screens, were some really fantastic and funny movies. Films like Big Daddy, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison and the Wedding Singer, Bedtime Stories, 50 First Dates, and many more were watched quite a lot back in the day, and they still hold up now. To be clear, not all Adam Sandler movies are amazing. He's had a lot of awful films in the past, but regardless, his legacy still stands strong in my book. Also, just watch Hubie Halloween. Odora rules! Webkinz. Webkinz were a line of toys that worked in tandem with an online game. What was cool about these seemingly generic plush toys was that when purchased, their tags displayed a code that when entered into the game, your toy would appear in the game, and you'd get to play with it and take care of it there. Webkinz were beloved by tons of kids, but unfortunately they fell off a bit. Whether you were just a fan of the plushies, playing the game, or pouring milk on your Webkinz and sucking it back up, leading the toy to be sopping wet and make a loud thud when slammed against walls, you'll probably remember these fondly. Newgrounds. Newgrounds is a website. Newgrounds is a website that primarily hosts games and animations made with Adobe's Flash software. The website was a favorite to so many kids back in the day. It was really a non-stop place of edgy fun. People were genuinely Newgrounds famous too. Being created by Tom Folk, people like OniNG, Psychic Pebbles, and Spaz Kid were on the top of the website and made it to the front page frequently. Newgrounds has made a resurgence in recent times thanks to the game Friday Night Funkin', which is really popular both with people who used to frequent Newgrounds and also little kids who like it because it's popular on YouTube. Characters like Pico, Zone 10, Tankman, and many others are featured in Friday Night Funkin', repopularizing them. But ignoring Friday Night Funkin', Newgrounds is genuinely something special, and it's such a time capsule of 2000s internet culture. I kind of don't like how popular it's become again because it just kind of normifies it, but it still is pretty great. Pingu. Pingu was a really cute stop-motion show about a claymation penguin just living life and getting into entertaining scenarios. The show was pretty popular as far as I know, and I personally loved it as a kid and watched it frequently. There was a pretty infamous scene with this seal thing. The character scared a lot of kids back in the day and was also featured in the childhood trauma Iceberg. Super S Stussy. This entry is referring to the iconic graffiti style S. What's special about this? Well, it was something that kids and teens would draw everywhere. Despite looking pretty complicated, it was actually pretty easy to draw since it was basically connecting a bunch of lines together. This S, surprisingly enough, is still drawn by kids to this day, and it's kinda awesome. Kayfy zombie car commercial. Alright, this one is a total classic. This entry is referring to a commercial for an energy coffee drink that shows a car driving around a lush green forest until a zombie pops out and screams, and then the drink is shown. This scared a lot of kids back in the day because there was a video posted telling the viewer to listen and watch carefully as there was allegedly a ghost that you could see faintly next to the car. Lots of people have a pretty strong love-hate relationship with this one. Lazytown. Lazytown was an Icelandic kids show that promoted healthy eating and exercise. Being a mix of human actors and puppets, the show was pretty beloved by its audience. I know I used to watch it on that old Noggin channel, and it was tons of fun. The character Robbie Rotten is probably the show's most iconic character, being reborn as a meme in 2016. The actor for Robbie Rotten, Stephen Carl Stephenson, was unfortunately fighting cancer at the time, and in one of the internet's best moments, thousands and thousands of people donated money to him to help him survive. Unfortunately, he passed away, but will forever be remembered by the kids who watched the show. Veggie Tales. Veggie Tales was a Christian CGI TV show where vegetables would retell stories from the Bible in a very unique and charming way. The show was generally great and had some really funny comedy in it. Later they came out with some movies, and my favorite as a kid was The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything. The show also has some genuinely great music and it's overall very nostalgic. Doodle Jump. Doodle Jump was a mobile phone game where you would direct this cute little character upwards by tilting the phone left and right. The game was really popular and very addicting since the terrain was constantly changing and it was fun to see how high you could get your score. SMG4. Super Mario Glitchy 4, SMG4 was a YouTube channel featuring Mario with blue clothes doing a bunch of wild things. I'm pretty sure the series is still going on to this day, and I remember it being pretty popular back then. It's not really my thing, but I can see how kids would enjoy it. Henry Stickman. Henry Stickman was a series of point-and-click flash games from Newgrounds that were really popular back in the day and made a resurgence recently. I think it was made by the people who made Among Us or something, so this is probably gonna be like another weird cross-generation nostalgia thing. Caillou. Caillou was a Canadian kids show about a bald 4-year-old going through his life and learning lessons along the way. The show was immensely popular back in the day and was watched by tons and tons of kids, including me. In hindsight, Caillou was a total brat, constantly having his tantrums and just generally being very annoying. I want to shout out this video here because it's the greatest thing ever and I highly suggest you give it a watch. Let me show you a little clip of it.
Playground. You know what that means?
I do work like Caillou, fresh shirt like Caillou, swag it up like Caillou, play at the park like Caillou. I'm not gay like Caillou, Lord of London like Caillou.
I do it like Caillou, I play around like Caillou, our favorite show is Caillou, I sit around like Caillou, with the crew like Caillou, brand new like Caillou, at the door like Caillou, count to 4 like Caillou.
Happy Tree Friends. Happy Tree Friends is a series of animated YouTube videos that presented themselves as happy little kids cartoons, but they were the exact opposite. The show featured these cute little characters getting brutally maimed in a bunch of different ways, sparing no details. The series was unfortunately watched by a lot of kids who didn't know what they were getting into, leading it to traumatize a lot of them. Happy Wheels. Ooh, this one hits close to home. Happy Wheels was an incredibly popular kids game that was all over YouTube back in the early 2010s. The game basically consisted of the player trying to direct someone on a vehicle through an obstacle course made to kill them. What made the game kinda scary to me and a lot of other kids was the gore. Though unrealistic, the blood and guts disturbed a lot of kids, but also intrigued many others. The game is pretty fun nowadays, genuinely just because of how bizarre it is, and the physics-based gameplay is really good, and well, that's why it's here. Smosh. Formerly the biggest channel in all of YouTube, Smosh was a duo comedy channel run by Anthony Padilla and Ian Hecox. They had a ton of videos consisting of different themes and subject matters that were beloved by kids back in the day. One of the most iconic series was one called Food Fight, which is super nostalgic to me. Smosh still exists nowadays, but not really. The content style is really different, especially because Anthony Padilla left to pursue his own YouTube channel. Crazy Frog. Crazy Frog was definitely strange, to say the very least. It was a character most known for his titular song from Beverly Hills Cop. What's great about Crazy Frog is that he has a large chunk of his Wikipedia page dedicated to controversies, and I think that's really funny. He also has a dick, which is kinda weird. My Singing Monsters. My Singing Monsters was an app where you could get a bunch of different monsters and compose songs using the noises that they made. The game had a cute art style, but was one of those kind of freemium mobile games, which kind of prevented me from getting into it, but I remember my friend being super into it, and the capacity it had to make songs was actually pretty impressive. Animal Jam. Animal Jam was a classic online web game where you got to design an animal and play with it. The game was kind of similar to Club Penguin in the way that you could interact with the people and play mini-games, but there was something kind of special about Animal Jam that made it unique. The art style was pretty cool and unique alongside a lot of set pieces for you to walk around in, and I know I have very fond memories of this game. The monkey was the best, and the claw machine little minigame was also the best. That was my experience with the game. Bionicle. Alright, I'm still into these. Bionicle was a line of LEGO toys that released in 2001. The sets were nothing like traditional LEGO sets, being robotic action figures with really cool designs. Bionicle itself had a really cool art style, taking inspiration from the Polynesian tribal themes, giving the toys a very unique look, unlike many others on the market at the time. Something that also made Bionicle really cool was the deep lore and storyline that accompanied it. Unfortunately, in 2010, Bionicle was discontinued, leaving many kids distraught. LEGO released a line called Hero Factory, which used the same building style as Bionicle, but it wasn't nearly as cool. In 2015, however, LEGO released a set of rebooted Bionicle toys, and these sets were more cartoony and they weren't as unique as the originals, but they were still pretty cool. Unfortunately, LEGO barely tried to advertise these sets at all, leading to terrible sales which made them stop making the line in 2017. These sets seem to be the final nail in the coffin for Bionicle, unfortunately. Big Nate. Big Nate was a series of books that was kinda similar to Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The books featured a boy named Nate surviving middle school and trying to get a girlfriend. These books were beloved by tons of kids, which is exactly why it's here. Nostalgia Critic. Nostalgia Critic is a character played by Doug Walker. Often compared to the angry video game nerd, the Nostalgia Critic reviews movies from the 80s and gets mad at them. His content used to be hosted on a website by the name of thatguywiththeglasses.com, which on its own is very nostalgic, but after many claims of horrible things happening to people who worked in this group, the name has been a little tarnished. A lot tarnished. The Nostalgia Critic is still a thing to this day on YouTube, and it's exactly how you remember it. Spy Kids. Spy Kids was a series of movies that featured, well, Spy Kids. The movies started off relatively low budget, but were a massive success, really entertaining to kids. The movies had some weird stuff in them which made them a bit scary to some, but overall these movies were a ton of fun. Wallace and Gromit. Wallace and Gromit was a British claymation short film series that's just really, really good. The series spawned some movies that are actually great. The characters were enjoyable and charming, the animation was awesome, and overall the whole series was just really enjoyable. Cut the Rope. Cut the Rope is a classic mobile game where you try to get a piece of candy to a cute little character called Om-Nom. The game was very simple yet complex at the same time, and it's one of the greatest mobile games out there. It had a couple ports including some DS games and even an arcade port. Goat Simulator. Goat Simulator is a classic joke game where you control a goat through a physics-based world. The game is silly for the sake of being silly, and it got a lot of attention online with lots of big YouTubers playing the game. As a kid, I really wanted to play this game since I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, so I totally relate to this one. Ghost Caught on Camera videos. This one's pretty self-explanatory. There are a ton of these videos allegedly showing footage of ghosts being caught on camera. Some of these were played off as being real, while others were just screamer videos. At the time, they were pretty convincing and scary. I've got a lot of nostalgia for these videos, and I'm sure lots of you guys do too. The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny. The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny is an old Flash animation featuring characters from all over the place fighting each other, and it's a ton of fun. The animation has that super classic Flash charm to it, and despite being pretty violent, I could totally see kids loving this video. Windows Movie Maker. Windows Movie Maker was a free software that came preloaded on Microsoft PCs back in the day. When I say the software was primitive, I mean it. On YouTube, there were so many videos that used this software for the editing, and it was really obvious. So even if you didn't use Movie Maker, you could absolutely recognize it since it was really easy to tell when a video was made by it. One of the most iconic parts of Movie Maker was the old fonts and transitions, especially with the blue backgrounds and wet text. Classic. MLG. MLG, or Major League Gaming, is exactly what it sounds like. On YouTube and the internet in general, there were a lot of parodies of Major League Gaming montages, and they had super loud sound effects and obnoxious memes flashing on screen and all that stuff. The subgenre blew up and was incredibly popular. These montage parodies popularized memes like Shrek, Doritos, the Illuminati, etc. Watching MLG montage parodies nowadays is a painful experience, but back then they were really beloved. Team Fortress. I'm guessing this is referring to Team Fortress 2, which is one of the most popular first-person shooter games out there. The game was released in 2007 and is still incredibly popular and beloved. The game itself is a somewhat silly class-based shooter game with a bunch of really unique characters who people still adore. It has an art style that is somehow just timeless and always looks good. Deviantart. Deviantart is an art hosting website where you can basically post whatever you want. There's some really fantastic art and stories on this platform, but it's mostly known for really weird and, like, gross art. And let me tell you, there is quite a lot of it. Lots of people remember this website for a whole myriad of reasons, and, well, that's why it's here. Dragon Tales. Dragon Tales was a cartoon kids show about some kids who lived among dragons. The show was cancelled in 2005, but had reruns for a couple years later, so it's more of an early Gen Z thing. Chocolate Rain. Chocolate Rain is one of the most iconic YouTube videos ever. The video was released by Tay Zonday in 2007. The song itself is a commentary on the way that black people are treated in America, which apparently is lost on a lot of people. The video to go along with the song is also just insanely iconic, with Tay moving away from the microphone to breathe in being one of the most memorable parts of it. Chocolate Rain represents a time in YouTube that we'll never get back and is fondly remembered by almost everyone who used it. 2012 being the end of the world. So back in the day, people thought that 2012 would be the end of the world thanks to the calendar the ancient Mayans used, which to us ended in 2012. This spawned a decent amount of panic in people, but was mostly looked at in a light way. But this specifically freaked out kids and introduced an anxiety for the apocalypse. Little Big Planet. Little Big Planet was a series of games on the PlayStation, and it featured a very cute little character called Sackboy. As Sackboy, you explored some really cool and unique worlds, including worlds made by other players. Chris Chan even did his own No, I'm not gonna mention Chris Chan. Gary's Mod videos. The title says it all. Gary's Mod, the classic Source game, was really popular back in the day, and there were tons of videos about it. Both playing it, just doing wacky things, and just displaying so much, since Gary's Mod was a really versatile game. Roller Coaster Tycoon. Roller Coaster Tycoon was a series of games where you basically make your own theme park. The game allowed kids to really use their imagination to make crazy and unique theme parks, and the game also allowed you to straight up kill the people who rode your rides. Tons of fun. MS Paint. Microsoft Paint was probably the most iconic preloaded software on Windows PCs. Microsoft Paint was used by so many kids back in the day, and tons of YouTube videos were made using the software, including the iconic SpongeBob Saw series. Portal. Portal was a two-part series of first-person puzzle games that are a really cool gameplay mechanic where you could place portals on any surface and teleport around. The games are really popular, and for good reason too. Alright everyone, so before we finish this video, I just need to show you some incredibly cool fan art. Alright, check this one out. This is Captain Orion as a goth anime girl, and this was for Halloween. Like, it's perfect. I can't say anything else. It's amazing. Also, this one is just really great, based off the nostalgia Iceberg. It's me as a baby, growing up slowly, and then eventually, now, I want to go back, you know? It's incredibly good. All this stuff is just, it's looking amazing. These pencil sketches are such a unique style, and it's really cool. You guys did a great job. Alright everyone, that wraps it up for part 2 of the Gen Z Nostalgia Iceberg. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who made it to the end of this video, and I also want to mention that this is only part 2 of a 4-part series, so you might as well subscribe and, you know, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when the new videos come out. I'm kind of thinking of making a Gen Z Nostalgia community Iceberg like I did with the childhood trauma one, so if you've got some stuff from your childhood that's more obscure and specific, please put it in the comments below and I might end up putting it in an iceberg. Alright everyone, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.